Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have with me KIX frontman and lead vocalist Steve Whiteman. Steve will talk all about the new Midnite Dynamite Relit release, as well as his upcoming solo album, and all of the KIX years, including Show Business and Cool Kids. I think you guys will really enjoy hearing all of his stories. Steve, I'd like to say thank you for spending nearly an hour with me, talking everything KIX and everything Steve Whiteman. It was a lot of fun. Thanks. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and get started with my conversation with the one, the only, Steve Whiteman. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I am super honored and excited to have on the show with me a man who actually needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. KIX lead singer, Steve Whiteman. How you doing, Steve?
I'm great, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. 2020 has been a weird year, man. So, we're all just
That's an understatement of the year.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I was at actually the drive-in concert you guys did, I guess about 10 days ago at this point. And
really?
Yeah, and I thought you summed up 2020 perfectly. You're like, what a weird year. We played at a wedding, a cornfield, some guy's house, in a drive-in show.
Yep.
So that to me summarized 2020 to a T.
That's the epitome of a weird year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But we loved going to gigs. I mean, just getting out and playing, it was, it felt great, but it was definitely not ideal.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, what did it feel like for the band? Because I can tell you, being in the crowd, it was still really cool. It was great to be out at a show, but what was it like for the band?
Well, we knew that the look overall was pretty sensational, that the people who put it on, Baltimore Stage and Sound, did an incredible job of making it look and sound incredible. So we were pretty confident that the people were being entertained. I missed that one-on-one with the crowd. I missed the sing-alongs and that that interaction with the crowd, because that's really half my show.
Right.
But it was almost like doing a video, but I could see people, I just couldn't hear them.
Right. I can tell you from a fan's point of view, when I'm watching the band, it felt like a regular concert. And then the song ends and you'd hear the cars honking their horns. Right. And you look around, you're like, yeah, this is a little bit weird. But the band was great, and I thought they were on fire. You guys were on fire that night.
Like I said, the everybody that was behind the scenes did an incredible job, and they had heat pumping on the stage, so it was never really uncomfortably cold. And yeah, everybody I feel enjoyed it. If we're still in this situation next year, I hope we get to do it again.
Absolutely. And what? I want to thank you as well, because I felt the place made it very safe. But you were on stage saying, hey, guys, make sure you wear a mask. Make sure we keep this safe. And, as a fan who was there and concerned for my safety, thank you for making sure that was the case.
It's such an easy and considerate thing to do. It's like, why do people want to fight that? I mean, it's scientific proof that it does help. It's not a cure, but it does help. And if it helps a little bit, just fucking do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I agree. So, also in this last week now, you guys have re-released Midnite Dynamite, right? So that's exciting. It's a double CD.
You gotta do something.
Absolutely. What do you remember originally about recording that album?
We made that album in 1985 with Beau Hill, and we thought going in that we finally put together an arrangement of songs with the right producer at the right time, where our music was really starting to explode. Our genre of music was starting to explode, and we really felt we had one in the bag this time, and made the best record that we possibly could with Beau. Had the best time of my life making that record with Beau Hill, and the engineers that he had were just such fun people to be around. They made it a lot of fun. Never laughed harder in all my life making that record, and we were really proud of it and thought that we had one. And I know Beau was disappointed with the way Atlantic handled it too, because they basically put out Cold Shower, and it didn't really take off like they would have hoped. And to them, the record was done. And to us, it was like, fuck that. Right. We're just getting started, because we know this record's good. So with our popularity on the East Coast, from like Boston to Florida, we could play almost any club on the East Coast, and we could make pretty good money. So we took it upon ourselves to say, fuck the record label. Let's take this money that we can make. Let's go to Chicago. Let's go to Detroit. Let's go to Cleveland. Let's go to Cincinnati. Let's go to these towns that people don't know who the hell we are. And until we go there and show them who we are, they're never going to know. So we did that for a year, just taking our own money and pretty much our own tour support, going to Texas, going to Milwaukee, going to the West Coast. And when Blow My Fuse came out, a hell of a lot more people knew about us and knew who we were. So the record company takes a lot of credit for Blow My Fuse blowing up. Bullshit. It was our legging it out and spending our own money that they got the word out. And we made a great record.
Oh, without a doubt. And I could say, I was on the East Coast. I was right in Brooklyn, right near Lemoore. And you guys were in Lemoore every 3 to 6 months, right? And then obviously, like you said, you started going around the country. But I often said this in the 80s, you guys were probably the hardest working band I have ever seen then or even since. I mean, you guys were constantly touring and deserve a lot of credit for really pushing your product out there on the fans.
We had a lot of belief in each other and in the music, and we really loved what we were doing, and it showed when we hit the stage. I mean, we were just passionate about putting on. Everybody strive for perfection every night, and that's impossible, but doesn't make you stop striving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you said that this album, Midnite Dynamite, was a lot of fun. How is it different working with Bo compared to like the first two albums when you were doing the recordings?
We had a great time working with Tom Allom too, but that record was all done. I mean, all Tom had to do was record it. And Tom was another fun Englishman who liked his adult beverages after we were done. So we had a good time with Tom. But I don't really think he had to add a whole lot of his expertise to that record. It was pretty much done. The second album, the record company tried to make us a pop band. Right. And they put us together with Pete Solly. And Pete had just come off the Romantics big album. So, they thought, okay, we got to get these guys on the radio. And radio was just ignoring our genre of music. And we knew that we weren't a radio-oriented band. Right. But we went ahead and we listened to them and reluctantly recorded a bunch of songs that we did not like, but just did it because the label, the A&R people, the management, the producer, everybody was just pushing us in that direction. So we made their record that they wanted us to make, and we hated it. And we had to go out with a big smile on our face for a year and a half and act like we liked that record. There was some good stuff on it, but the stuff that they were pushing, we didn't like it at all. So the third album, we wanted to make our record, and Bo Hill let us make our record, and the record company let us alone, and we made Midnite Dynamite.
Absolutely. Now, one of the songs on that is a song you guys still perform in concert to this day, Sex, and you co-wrote that. So could you talk a little bit about the writing process of that song? Anything you remember?
Sure. I mean, it was one of the few songs I was allowed to write because getting a song in with Donnie was very difficult. He pretty much owned the writing of the band, and that was on purpose. He really didn't want other people to write songs. So getting the song in was not easy. But the inspiration for that song, Ronnie and I used to share, Ronnie 1010, we used to share a 3-complex apartment building. And I was downstairs and Ronnie was right above me. And Ronnie had an entourage of women all the time, just knocking on his door. One would leave and another one would knock an hour later. I mean, he was a pig of a man and everybody envied him. But he had one
living
wild
the 80s lifestyle.
Yes. Not my lifestyle, but his lifestyle.
His lifestyle, right, okay.
And I envied his lifestyle. We all did. But one night he just had this wild bitch up there that I could hear just shit going off the walls. And just, man, this guy has more sex than anybody I've sex. I'm just going to write a song about that. So, I wrote all the music and all the lyrics, and Donnie contributed with a couple of ideas with the harmonica and the answering guitar part. And he come up with the, that beginning part and ending part. So yeah, he contributed a lot to bring that song to another level.
Right. Now, before you mentioned Cold Shower, and you had 2 videos for this album, right? Cold Shower and Midnite Dynamite.
Yeah, but we made Midnite Dynamite.
Oh, you guys did it yourself, right?
We paid for that. We played a college, Mount St. Mary's College, and the record company was done with it at that point. So we weren't. So we took it, once again, our bar money, and we made that video at Mount St. Mary's College and got very little airplay because at that point, the record label's not behind it. They're not pushing it. So MTV goes, okay, we'll play it once. Right. Now, do you remember anything from the filming of either of those videos that stand out for you? Oh, sure. The cold shower video was actually it was very neat, and we shot it outdoors in some parking lot up in New Jersey, I believe,
Uh-huh.
and they had the sprinklers, like sprinklers behind us, so it looked like it was
Mm-hmm.
pouring down rain the whole
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
And that was our first real big budget video. The shit we made on the Cool Kids album was so bad and so cheaply done, and we were so embarrassed by
Mm-hmm.
those videos.
Mm-hmm.
But the cold shower video was good. But again, you know, it for whatever reason, whether it's a record company, whether it's management, who knows what it is. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows what that magic wand is. But
Mm-hmm.
and when we made Midnight Dynamite, we shot this video from like 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening, and then we played a 2-hour show.
Oh, wow.
So to say
Mm-hmm.
I was exhausted because we wanted to get some of the live stuff, you know,
Sure.
and incorporate that into the video. But
Mm-hmm.
man, what a long day.
Man, that sounds crazy. So, you know, I always wondered why the song Walking Away to me would fit in perfectly in 1985 as a single. You know, a lot of bands were doing like that power ballad, and not that Walking Away
Yep,
is a power ballad, but it's in that genre a little bit, right?
yep.
And so I've always wondered why Atlantic didn't release that as a single, because that had hit song written all over it to me.
We totally agree. That's a question for them, not for
Yeah.
us, because it was their forum.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if it wasn't for, I'm not going to remember his name now, the manager who was managing Guns N' Roses at the time, and he was managing Great White,
Okay.
and we
Alan
were out on the
Nevison?
road. What is it?
Is it Alan Nevison?
Alan something,
Yeah. So,
something like
okay.
that.
Okay. We'll go with Alan.
That'll work for now.
That'll
But
work.
he was out on the road with Great White. We were opening for Great White and Tesla at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we put out Cold Blood, and I believe we put out Get It While It's Hot.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the record company was done, and they had no intentions of releasing Don't Close Your Eyes until Alan Niven,
Alan Niven. Yeah. Alan Niven. Yeah.
and Alan called the president of Atlantic Records and said, "You're sitting on a hit single. If you don't put this out, you're crazy." The next week, we're shooting a video for Don't Close Your Eyes, and went platinum. So if it wasn't for that guy, they would have dropped the ball again.
Mm-hmm. It must have been tough for you guys then during the 80s when you see all these other bands, you know, whether it's Rat, Twisted Sister, Motley Crue, go on and on and on,
Yep.
getting this, you know, extreme popularity, and you guys are playing in clubs. And, you know, for my money, you're still one of the greatest live bands of that era, you know, hands down. But it had to be frustrating for you guys as a band saying, when's our turn coming up?
It was very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when it finally did pop on Blow My Fuse, we had amassed such a huge debt that we never reaped any benefits of that record. I mean, other than getting out in front of a lot more people and getting on MTV, getting more notoriety, playing better venues, getting out of the van, getting onto a tour bus, playing arenas, going to different countries. But as far as financial, we never reaped any benefit from that.
That's such a shame to me. So, you know, with the remix album coming out, I know when you did Blow My Fuse remix a couple of years ago, you went out on tour and you did the full album. Now, obviously, touring's not really happening. Are you going to do full album shows for Midnight Dynamite, or just select songs? What are you guys thinking?
You know, when it comes time to put a show back together, I think we'll discuss that. I personally think there's some songs on there that I don't even know if I can do anymore.
Okay.
I mean, I recorded those songs when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Well, I'm in my mid 60s now. And for me to go out and tell people that I can do Cold Shower like I did in my 20s, that ain't going to happen. So there are some things that I have to admit, and hopefully the fans will understand that I just can't pull off like I once did, and I won't do it if it's not great.
Right. And that's one of the things to me I picked up, because I've seen you guys a number of times in the last decade, and you still have it in your voice. And there's so many of people, when they hit, like you said, in the mid 60s, they can't sing. And I won't name some of those guys, but we all know who they are, right? So, right. But how did you take care of your voice all these years?
Well, I've never really stopped singing, and I also, when KIX went on hiatus in '95, which we thought was just going to be a breakup forever, didn't think we were ever going to come back, I started teaching vocals. So I did a lot of research, and I had vocal training. So I used that as a platform, and I researched, and I come up with really good ways of working with people and teaching people. So that kept my chops up. And then I started Funny Money, and was out playing on weekends with Funny Money and teaching through the week. So I never let my voice deteriorate.
Absolutely. You know, I want to read something here, because you mentioned the teaching, and everybody knows Lizzie Hale's probably your most famous student that you've had, right? But I want how you think, right? I want to read a quote, something she said, because it goes right in line with what we're talking about. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Right? One of the biggest things he taught me was how to troubleshoot If I have a cold, if something happens, or if I'm tired on the road, the show must go on. And this is how to do it without hurting yourself. I owe literally the fact that I'm able to give 110% every evening because of that guy. When I read that, I'm like, this is so true. As a singer, you have to be 110% every night, right? It's
Even though you're not.
Even though you're not, right? So, I read that quote and I'm like, that says a lot to you as a performer and a teacher.
Well, she's very kind. She's very sweet. And she was, she had all the tools. She just didn't know how. She wasn't disciplined yet. So I just put a little discipline in her life, and she took that ball and ran and ran and ran, and she's running hard right now.
Absolutely.
I love Lizzie.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people do, right? So
yeah.
Just looking back to the Midnite Dynamite album again for a moment, one of the things I think is cool, if you look at some of the demos that you guys did, there was during that session, Boomerang, which came up on your next album, right? And Book to Hypnotize, which didn't get released for another 10 years.
Right.
You remember why those songs ended up not on the Midnite Dynamite album?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly why. I guess they didn't float Bo Hill's boat at that time.
Okay.
I guess he felt the other songs were stronger and would make a more complete album as opposed to just throwing a song in there because it's got a good groove.
Right. Makes sense. Now, I remember seeing you guys in the 80s a number of times where you actually did Book to Hypnotize. So I was excited when that finally got released in 95. I'm like,
you're going to talk about that stupid jacket, aren't you?
Right. So, no, I won't talk about the jacket. But when you guys did that show a couple of weeks ago, you actually said, hey, there's a few songs we actually like on this album. And here's one. And then you guys did Baby Time Bomb, right?
Right.
What other songs do you actually like on that album?
I like Fireballs.
Okay.
I love If You Run Around. I think that's a great song.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff on there. I have to have the titles in front of me to and obviously Fireballs.
911.
And I wasn't too hot about that.
Okay, Ball Baby Ball. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, so we won't push it anyway. So if you had to choose Cool Kids or Show Business, which one?
Oh, Show Business, hands down.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very good. So going back,
I got the right one on there as well. I got the right put my money where my mouth is.
Absolutely. Of all your different co-writes in the band, do you have one that stands out as one of your favorites?
Probably Sex.
Okay.
Because we're still able to play it and people still seem to enjoy it. And I just like yelling sex.
Nothing wrong with that, right? Yeah. Oh man. So you mentioned before the touring, and by 88, 89, you were touring with Rat, you toured with Whitesnake. But I know during the Midnite Dynamite era, really there was no, I'll say, support for you guys on a major tour. I think you did a couple of shows with Aerosmith, right?
Yeah.
So how was that?
We would get thrown these bones because we were in we had a good relationship with a couple of local promoters, like in the Harrisburg area. There was a venue called City Island that we would play in. We opened for Ted Nugent and Iron Maiden and Crocus and all these bands that played City Island that we got to open for. And then being with Cellar Door in the DC area, we got to open for David Lee Roth and once again Ted Nugent in Salisbury, Maryland. So we were given an opportunity to open for a lot of big bands, but it never turned into anything other than our local fans coming out to enjoy us playing a large arena opening for a major artist.
Sure. And now you mentioned that David Lee Roth show. If I remember right, there was a little bit of fireworks. What happened there? What happened there?
We had no communication with anybody in the David Lee Roth camp. I mean, when we got there, we didn't have a road manager or anything. We were our own road manager. So when we got there, we're like, nobody's telling us what to do. Nobody's telling us when to go on, how long to play. That we got nothing. So we just, went by I guess we'd start at 8 and go to 8:45. You usually get 45 minutes.
Sure, right.
Well, they didn't tell us that it was a 30-minute set.
Oh,
and we were killing because it's Baltimore. And then,
exactly.
they're eating our shit because, hey, when you look at KIX, you're up on that big stage. And I think we were in the middle of atomic bombs and they pulled the plug on us. And the fans start booing. And Donnie Purnell just went ballistic. And he went over to the no Dave zone, nobody but Dave. And he went right over there and acted like he was taking a piss all over it. And he got jumped by the little midget security guys. And he started beating the hell out of him.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, in the 80s, I'll say my two favorite bands were KIX and KISS. Right, those are my two
Okay.
favorites. And I never actually knew until maybe like 10 years ago. You guys actually opened the show for KISS. Do you remember anything about that
I
show?
remember everything about that. We were
What
in
was that like?
Houston, Texas,
Okay.
playing a club,
Hmm.
and we got a call from our agent and said, "How would you guys like to open for KISS in Pittsburgh?" We
Hmm.
said, "Hell yes." When?
Hmm.
In 2 days. And we're in our van. So we drove 30 hours nonstop to Pittsburgh. We got in about 6 in the morning, got a couple of hours sleep,
Hmm.
went to the venue. Gene and Paul come into our dressing room with our Midnight Dynamite album, saying how much they enjoyed it,
Oh,
welcomed
nice.
us to the show. It was
Hmm.
a makeup show for them. That's why it
Right.
just came out of nowhere.
Hmm.
And it was one of the most incredible experiences. And the show that they put on that night was amazing. So that was that's an incredible memory.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, one of the things to me, we were talking about Midnight Dynamite. The first two album covers had full band photos.
Yeah,
After Midnight Dynamite, they were like artwork things. But
right.
Midnight Dynamite has you and you only on the front cover from the band. Did the band give you like any flack about that? Were they upset that you were the only band member on the cover?
No, it was their idea.
Was it really?
When we had such a great time making that record, and every time I would go in to do vocals, I would take the headphones, and my hair was really long. I would take the headphones and I would pull it up, and my hair would just go blah, like this big fan, like this big sun fan. And those guys loved it. They laughed like crazy every time I did it. And the engineer was taking snapshots of things throughout the recording, and he would put them up on the console while we're in the studio, and everybody kept looking at that picture of me, and Bo said, "That's your album cover right there." And that, so I just had to recreate that look, and they
Right.
the picture with the stick of dynamite.
Absolutely.
So that's where the whole concept came from, with just me being a dick.
Well, it's a great album cover to me.
It is.
That's one of the things I loved about the 80s, when you had albums and it was like a piece of artwork. So it's a great album
Yes.
cover. One of the things also I remember with that album cover is, I'll say, in my opinion, the classic KIX logo first appeared on that album, right? So the first album, you had a little bit of a different logo. This one had like, it was like a little, like it was popping a little bit from sides. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? How did that logo come about?
I'm sure Donnie collaborated with some artists, and Donnie controlled everything in that band.
Okay.
I mean, anything that happened, it was under his thumb. So I can take no credit for it, but we all liked it.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So we were talking about the touring. Is there one particular tour amongst all the years that sticks out to you as like the most fun the band had together?
I think our first visit to Japan was one of the most incredible, just going into an entirely different culture like that. And the way that we were received by the fans. I mean, like 500 fans were outside the airport when we landed, holding up our album. And they're just very enthusiastic fans over there. And when you're traveling, you travel by the bullet train. And on every stop, there'd be like a handful of fans holding up our albums. And so that to me was the most amazing.
And that was what, 88, 89 time period?
89.
Right, for during the Blow My Fuse.
Yeah,
right?
I think. Yeah, I'm looking. I got a banner hanging up on my
Yep,
wall.
I could see it. I could see it. Yep. Very, very cool. Well, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. So, I was saying before that to me, the band is one of the greatest live bands of all time. And I feel like, to me, in my opinion, you are enormously underrated as a front man, not just a singer, but as a performer and a front man, because those are two different things, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel that you're underappreciated as a front man?
I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I do what I do. I mean, I had to be influenced by people in order to come up with my shtick. So when I first started, I was a drummer, and I felt perfectly fine back there doing lead vocals from behind the drums. I didn't have to relate to the crowd. I didn't have to do anything but sing and play drums. And when I joined, we were then called the Shoes. There was another drummer in the band, and him and I would trade off, go back and forth. That was kind of really great training for me to kind of learn how to be a front man, but yet still retrieve back to my drums in my comfort zone. Eventually, unfortunately, we had to let him go because he had some alcohol issues. So I became the full-time front man. But I still felt like I was a turd, and I just didn't know how to do it very well. Then I saw the Stones in 1981, and I just watched Mick Jagger, and I thought, that's how you do it. Okay, that was the first part. So you got to be in perpetual motion, you got to be visual, you got to be entertaining. Then I saw Peter Wolf,
Okay.
And Peter Wolf was just like all his raps, and I put those two together and come up with a character, and that's where I got my shtick from.
No, and to me, it's all part of the KIX experience. I always say, going to a concert, listen to music should be fun.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that when you go to a KIX concert, you're having fun, right? That to me, that just screams off the stage. A lot of
That's
fun.
the whole point. The whole
Absolutely.
point is to drop your troubles at the door, come on in, have a good time, pick them back up on your way out.
There you go. Exactly. So now you just said you borrowed from a couple of people, and
Yep.
over the years we've heard that one person in a very famous band in the 80s seemed to borrow a lot
Who'd
from
that
you.
be?
Did that ever bother you that he was getting far more recognition than you?
It bothered us that their band went on to do so much better than our band, and they used to open for us, and we just didn't feel like they were a pimple on our ass at the time, that they got that big break and we didn't. They opened for us a lot. As I think they were called Paris at the time.
Yep.
And we liked them. We took them under our wing, and we really liked them as people and as friends, and talked to them about how to do things better. And when they loaded up the truck to move to Beverly, they just kind of took our show with them. So when we went out there, and they actually hooked us up. When I was telling you we were paying for our own tours, they hooked us up in some venues. So they asked us to come out and watch their show one night, and we just kept looking at each other going, that's our show.
Right.
Down to the dropping to the knees and the balloons, and Brett just had all my moves.
All your moves.
But they did it great, and I know they worked their asses off to get to where they are and to where they were at that time. So no grudges or no hard feelings, but a little, jealous, I guess would be the best word.
And that's understandable, especially at that time when you guys have been around 5-6 years. Like you said, you took them under your wing. So I think that's understandable. Now, did you guys ever consider, I'll say, rebasing out in California? Like when
Never.
No. Okay. So you
Never.
always happy being in Maryland.
That's phony baloney land. That just we're East Coast rockers, and that we prefer to stay it that way.
And I love it that way. I'm from New York my whole life, so I totally relate to that. Totally. Now, you mentioned before you used to play the drums. Do you still play drums?
I do.
You do? Okay. When was the
I
last
have a
time
rubber kit. Can you see them?
Yeah, there it is. Yep. Nice.
This is where I make my demos, and I'm actually beginning to record my own record. I've been writing songs over the past several years, and we just been re-releasing material, and I've shared the material with the other guys, and I don't know if they just don't feel it's very strong material for KIX, but I just want to do something with it. So me and Brad Divins and Jimmy Chalfon are getting into a studio, and we're gonna it's like 12 songs we're going to lay down and see what happens after we're done. You put it out for fans. I don't quite know where to go with it yet, but I'll figure it out.
Okay, and obviously Jimmy, drummer in KIX, but Brad's got a connection with KIX from years past as well.
Yeah,
so,
well, Brad's like all of us. We're like, we have nothing to do, and he's house engineer for Enrique Iglesias, and he's bored. We're bored, and Jimmy went over to his house because he just started this studio, and Jimmy went over to record. I believe Walking the Dog by Aerosmith, just to put out some cover tunes and put them out on Facebook and get some reaction. So Brad's really getting into it now. So now he's getting people to say, hey, can you mix my record, or can you mix my demo? So now he's getting really into it. So he invited me to come over and record these songs at his studio. So, we'll see how it turns out. And I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome. Do you think that'll be a 2021 release? Is that what you're targeting?
More than likely, yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Would you ever do any solo shows in support of it, or are you just thinking only KIX?
I'm thinking only KIX at this point because, after doing Funny Money for 18 years, and it never got the attention that KIX will get. And as much as I loved Funny Money and being able to finally get out from under Donnie's control and write songs and perform in front of people, I loved it. But I know where my bread and butter lies. So that's pretty much why I stopped Funny Money, because Funny Money played half KIX material and half Funny Money material. And the promoters were coming after Funny Money more than KIX because they could get almost the same show, minus Ronnie and Brian, of course, but almost the same music. And I thought, this isn't really fair to the guys in KIX. So we decided to put it down.
Right. And I remember when KIX reunited, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, the first show you actually labeled it as 4/5 of KIX, right?
Yeah.
So what was that all about?
We weren't quite sure legally where we stood with that. Mark eventually found that the name was public domain, that Donnie didn't own it, that nobody owned it, so he bought it. He bought the name, so we didn't have to do that. It was just lack of knowledge of knowing, could he come after us and sue us, and we didn't want any lawsuits to do a show. So
Sure.
we just called it Four Fifths of KIX, and people got it.
Right. Absolutely. Now, you mentioned before the cover tune, Walking the Dog, right? So I remember going to see KIX in the 80s, and you guys always, I shouldn't say always, that's strong, frequently closed your shows with Satisfaction from the Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of how you say, like just now, Mick Jagger was a big influence. So, to me, you guys always did Satisfaction. You did great. You covered Def Leppard's Foolin', which I think is a great version as well.
Yeah.
So, did you ever think of recording, let's just say, Satisfaction for an album?
Nah, that's such a classic song for the Stones. I mean, everybody's already heard that song a million times. So if you would do a cover, you would do something that's not so well known, and and try to make it your own. But we've never been much of never wanted to record a cover. We never have. And I guess, I don't know why we did it as encores. I guess because we didn't have a better idea.
Well, I thought you guys always did a great version. Like you said, it's such an iconic classic song.
Yeah.
But you guys always pulled it off and sounded great all the time to me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You mentioned before you play drums. When did you stop playing harmonica?
That started when the song "The Kid" off the first album was written, and Donnie just looked at me, because I'm the kind of guy that I could pick up anything and play it. I mean, if it could be played, I can usually get some sounds out of it. So he urged me to push me into getting a harmonica and see if I couldn't come up with some kind of a solo for the kid. Give me about 3 or 4 hours, and I come up with a solo for the kid. So then I just kept working with it and listening to people like Steven Tyler and Robert Plant and how they approach the blues harmonica, not the Dylan, not the
right.
blow in and out of it, but the actual bending of notes and trills and stuff.
Yep, absolutely. We're talking before about the live show you guys do, and I have to ask you, you said before you're in your mid-60s, early mid-60s, right? Where do you get that energy from? Because I'm a few years younger, not much, but a few years, and I'm tired just sitting here talking. Right? So where do you get that energy from?
That's a good question. I mean, I take such pride in getting out there and getting in front of people, and I know they have expectations of being entertained, and I see it all the time. Now, Steve has unending energy. He's this, he's that, and it's all very flattering. But in order for me to do that, I've got to work my ass off. I got to work out. I walk an hour and 10 minutes every day. I work out for 45 minutes 6 days a week. I keep my voice in shape by doing vocal exercises. I'm not teaching right now because of COVID, but I work at it, and it's a conscious effort. It doesn't just come naturally. It's not like I can just turn a switch on and go out there and go ape shit.
Right. No, that makes sense. Now, you said you're not teaching now. Wasn't your daughter also teaching at the same location as you, right? So how was that for you?
I'm the one that recommended her to do it, because I worked with her when she was like 13 or 14, and she was great. And she did a couple of projects by herself, but she never sunk her teeth into it. But she was a great singer. And I talked her into, doing some research and taking the stuff that I showed her, and maybe using it as a teaching career. And that's what she's doing.
That's awesome. And now, didn't you guys do a couple of shows together as well over the last few years?
No, it was in the beginning of when KIX got back together.
Oh, was it? Oh, was that
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, she would play piano and sing. I think she did Tear Down the Walls. She would do that. Yeah, it's hard to explain her reluctance of keeping. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know what it is. Anxiety. Don't know what it is, but something pushed her away from it.
Oh, okay.
And to this day, I don't know what it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it takes a certain confidence and a certain skill and just mindset to do those things, and it's not for everybody. I totally.
And it takes a tough skin, because you get turned down a lot.
Yes, it takes a tough skin, and especially as a singer, if you are only 95%. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows it. Everybody goes back to what we were saying before, right?
Yeah.
If your voice cracks on one note, everybody hears that.
Yep.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you were born in West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So, at what age do you go from West Virginia to Maryland?
Born and raised in a little town called Piedmont, West Virginia, up in the Eastern Panhandle. I was there till I was like 22.
Ooh, okay.
And I was playing in local bands. I was playing in probably one of the best local bands at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And our bass player, his name was Joe Procopio, was dating a girl in Hagerstown, Maryland, that was the sister of Donnie Spence, who was playing drums in the Shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe was getting tired of being in that area, and he knew that the Shoes were looking for a singer. So Joe told them about me. So they come up to LaVale, Maryland, saw me in this little club,
Mm-hmm.
and Donnie Purnell immediately took me out to his little Volkswagen Bug, played me Daddy's Little Girl, original
Mm-hmm.
song, Atomic
Mm-hmm.
Bombs,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Contrary Mary. And it's like, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to get a record deal, and we're going to go all the way. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and he said it with such confidence. I'm like, I'm in. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I loaded up the van and moved to Hagerstown.
Right, right, right. Very cool. Now, one of the things that bands do for the last 20, 25 years is they go out on their farewell tour.
Yeah.
So KIX has never played that card. I know in
No.
95, you guys just stopped touring for a
Yeah.
couple of
We didn't
decades,
even let
right?
people know that was the end.
Exactly. It was like all of a sudden KIX wasn't around for a while, right? Do you ever see yourselves doing a farewell tour, or are you just going to play until they literally have to drag you off the stage?
We're going to play until we don't feel like the product we're performing is up to snuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I get to the point where I feel like my voice can't handle this music anymore, I won't do it anymore.
Okay.
So as long as I keep myself in shape and I keep working at it, and the other guys, as long as they don't get arthritis or whatever, and, which is, we're at that age where that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing becomes real.
Absolutely.
So I think as long as we're able to do it and do it well, we'll probably be around for a while. But if it gets to the point where it's not a good product anymore, then I'm out.
Now, when you look back to 1979 or so, right, when you first on with the Shoes, like you said, ultimately came to KIX, did you ever think in 2020 that you'd still be performing? Forget the pandemic side of it, right? But did you ever think that the band would still be existing and performing?
No, you don't. You never think that far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're thinking the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Can we make it through another year? Can we get another record out? Can we get a tour? It's you're pretty much looking at what's in front of you immediately, not really the long term.
Right, absolutely. Now, do you think that in 92, 93, if Nirvana, Pearl Jam, etc., didn't become such superstars, do you think that you would have continued, or do you think that it would have probably ended for KIX in 95 anyway for a little bit?
I think we would have continued, but who knows? I mean, right. There's always a turnaround in music genre. It happens all the time. And it was a time where I feel like too many bands were being classified as hair metal, and too many bands were looking alike and sounding alike. And it just got, the bandwagon got mushed. So when the garage bands like Nirvana and all these other bands come out, it was a fresh sound. We got it. We understood why people were gravitated towards that, because this genre of music that we worked so hard to be in, and really tried to disassociate ourselves from that hair metal glam thing, because we never really considered ourselves that. We were around way before that crap ever happened. So, but we got lumped into it and got kicked out of the party.
No, and to that point, to me, you guys and like a band like Tesla were never hair metal, right? You guys were on stage usually like jeans. Some of you guys, some was wearing leather pants, but it was jeans. It was just, it was not all the makeup, and to me, you were not hair metal. It's a shame you got lumped in.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Absolutely. Now, fast forward, 15, 20 years later, the band puts out another new album, right? 2015, I think it was, right? How was that for you after all these years? You have a lot more creative control now, right? That you referred to before. How was that for you?
The one word I used for Rock Your Face Off was liberating. The fact that we all got to contribute, we all got to write, we all got to give our ideas. That was never the case before. We pretty much were just told what to do, how to do, when to do. At this time, we got to go, what if we do it like this? What if I add this? And everybody was open to all the ideas. And I think it was a lot of fun for everybody. And like I say, liberating. We all felt like we contributed, which was first.
Absolutely. And you still play some of those songs. And in fact, when we went to the drive-in show a couple of weeks ago, you did 2 songs from it, and they go over very well with the fans.
Yeah, they do. I think they fit right in with the classic stuff that we do. When we first put that record out, we were playing like, I don't know, 5, 6 songs off that album. And nobody said, we don't want to hear that. Everybody seemed to, plus it's how you present it,
Agreed. Agreed. And I think, to me, one of the things with KIX is that while you might not have achieved the success as, let's just say, Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses, your fan base is loyal. And you know
Very.
that those fans are picking up that album, and they'll pick up your solo album if you put out in 2021. And I don't think you have to cross your
I need the money.
That's great. You know, that reminds me, when you at the drive-in show, when you did Girl Money, you were like, the hell with the girls, we need the money. And it's again part of that whole, your whole stage presence to me is what makes a KIX show so much fun.
Well, you know, I realized that my sense of humor was a valuable tool early on.
Mm-hmm.
When we played this club in Leonardtown, Maryland, when I first joined them, and it was 6 nights a week. So you start on Tuesday and you went to Saturday, or 5
Mm-hmm.
nights. And Tuesday and Wednesday, there'd be nobody there. I mean, one night we played for one guy, and he wouldn't leave, and the owner wouldn't let us stop. So that's when we just had to start making fun of it all. And that's when I just started being ridiculous. And I thought, this is kind of fun. Just to make fun of, instead of up here being cool and, you know, fists and all that, let's just make fun of ourselves, and let's just have a good time and laugh. So we always took that approach after that. So those lonely shows in Leonardtown really was another way that pointed me in a direction of humor and fun.
And to me, it was a little bit unique compared to the other bands I was going to see in the 80s, which is one of the things I loved about going to see KIX.
Yeah, because they were too serious, and they were preachy, and they were like, look at us and love us, and
Right.
let me hear you, and you know, like the crowd owed them something.
Right.
No, it's the other way around, assholes.
Right. And you know, even when you introduced Don't Close Your Eyes, I love how you can even poke fun at yourself. Like, hey, this was our one hit. Other bands had more. We had one. And to me, it's just that I just love that whole aspect of the show.
I speak the truth.
100%. So do you think, you know, we were just talking before about a possible solo album next year for you. Do you think there'll ever be another KIX studio album?
Never say never. I mean, I think that we've had 2 pretty successful campaigns with the Blow My Fuse, Reblown, and then Midnite Dynamite. We're going to ride this one out. Originally, before we put Rock Your Face out, or before we did Reblown, we were talking about a studio record, and that's when I started compiling music and was seeing if the guys would be interested. And then the whole concept of Reblown started, and go, yeah, that's a good idea, and it makes good sense. We got a year's campaign to go out and something to talk about and present to people, and then. Because it turned out so well, and Bo Hill did such a great job. Bo actually wanted to redo Midnite Dynamite. It was pretty much his idea to say, hey, I'd like another crack at that album. I think I can make it even better. So so now we're in this campaign. So probably we'll get back out on the road next year, hopefully, and then we'll probably start thinking about a new record.
Fair enough. Now, I know that Bo did say about the re-release of the album that he loves the way the vocal sounds on the new release. So have you compared that? And what do you think about the new release, the sound of the vocals?
Well, everything sounds cleaner. Everything sounds less muddied up because, you know, he got rid of a lot of the echo and a lot of the reverb and the things that just muddies things up. And he boosted the levels a little bit. And my vocals were not buried, but they were always a little hard to hear. I mean, you could hear them, but they were never out front. Bo put him out front. He said, "You're a great singer. I want to hear your damn vocals." So, well, one of the big things that he did, and has always done. He's always been a fan of me, and he's always he's a great friend.
Absolutely. Now, when you were going back and listening to that album, were there any songs you're like, wow, yeah, we haven't played this song, whichever one it may be, right? I really missed this song. Is there anything that stood out to you?
I don't think we ever played Cry Baby. I don't think we ever played that song, because to me that song sounds like a fish. It's just all over the place.
Okay.
Like, I can't even find the time on it. I could never dance to that song. I don't know what the time signature is. So I don't think we ever did that one. Probably Scarlet Fever, I think, is a great song that we and Ronnie actually went into the studio. One of the reasons they refused to play that song was Bo had to bring in a guitar player because we were running out of time, running out of money, and those guys were being stymied by Donnie over their shoulders, telling them what to do and how to do it. So Bo brought in Mike Slamer to play some solos, and Mike came in and played his great solo, but it wasn't the way Ronnie or Brian played, and they just hated it. They didn't want to conform to that Eddie Van Halen style of tapping. So Ronnie got to go into the studio, and he still conformed a little bit, so it wouldn't be totally different, but he got to do it his way. And so now I think he would probably be more comfortable playing that song live now.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping it gets added to the set list. I'd
Yeah,
love
great
to hear
song.
it. A great song. And then didn't Jimmy also recut the drums on the two
Yes.
songs that Anton had to fill in for?
Yeah, Jimmy had a pinched nerve in his neck, or a ruptured disc or something in his neck, and he had to have a surgery. But we were leaving the studio and immediately going back out on the road. So Jimmy needed some recovery time. So he had to leave the studio during the recording of those last two songs. And Anton Fig came in, did a great job. But obviously Jimmy wanted to be, if given the opportunity to put his take on those songs, he was given the opportunity.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So we're talking about all this touring. What do you think 2021 is going to have in store for you guys?
No idea. No idea. I mean, seriously, if and when we do get a vaccine out, are people going to take it? Is it going to be, how effective is it going to be? I don't see the ripple effect of this. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to a lot of things concerning this virus. And I heard a guy yesterday say, don't expect things to be normal until 2024. I mean, with the economy, with everybody, the tens of millions of people that are out of work, the venues and the businesses are going to close. It's not going to be right for quite a while. And we've already seen like 3 or 4 venues that we were scheduled to play in this year gone. So it's, until we actually get this done with and people actually listen, wear the damn mask, social distance, don't get in large gatherings, do what they're asking you to do so people can get back to work, so kids can get back to school, so we can get life in a somewhat normal way.
Absolutely. It's not a difficult thing to do. And obviously it's the artists like yourself that are suffering and not having the income, but it's all the people as well as the sound man. It's the stage hands. It's all those people that rely on music for a living,
Think of Broadway, all the people worked on Broadway out of work. Think of all the people in sports venues out of work. All the people, like you say, in arenas and clubs and theaters with bands, road crews out of work, and no end in sight.
No. Well, hopefully 2021 will turn the corner a little bit. And you guys, I think, also have, I'll call it the Monsters of Rock cruise, although it's on land coming up this next year, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Anything?
I hope it happens. Not sure. When is that supposed to be? In May, I believe?
It's in late May, I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, we did it last November. It was in Punta Cana, and it's a Breathless Resort. It's the same resort that we were there in November, and it's beautiful. And I think it's going to be great if they can pull it off. I don't know. Hopefully by then, if they get a vaccine out and everybody has access to it and it's proven to be effective, then people, we're still going to be wearing masks. We're still going to be under protocols. Right. And if people will finally get it, if we get a leader that'll actually get up in front of people and go, this is what we need to do, not defy it. And, maybe people will finally start to listen.
From your lips to God's ears, hopefully, right? So
yeah,
to me, one of the things that's really cool about those, like last year, you guys did the Monsters of Rock cruise, and I think Kip Winger came up on stage with you guys and did Red Hot, right? So,
Bang Bang.
Bang Bang, yeah, Bang Bang, right? Not Red Hot, Bang Bang. So that was the first time probably you guys did that together, right?
Oh yeah, and Kip was one of the co-writers of that song. That was his first real credit for songwriting. And Kip was just like this little guy that was running around the studio. Nobody knew him, and he was just a friend of Bo's. And he cornered Donnie one day when Donnie's sitting around banging on a guitar, and Kip said, I like that riff. What if you did something like this? And they just started collaborating and come up with that song. That's why there's no demo for that song on this re-release, because there was never a demo. It was written in the studio.
Absolutely. No, that totally makes sense. And I remember, because I was always a big, reading the liner credits guy. So I always remember seeing his name. And then I was aware of him with Alice Cooper, and then of course going on for his own stuff. So I was always aware. So to me, that was like a cool moment from the cruise last year.
That we've remained friends for all these years, and that was his idea to come up. Hey, what if I come up and do Bang Bang with you guys? And go, hell yes.
Right, nice, very nice. Is there anything 40 years into your career now that you say, hey, I still want to accomplish this, whatever it may be?
Good question. I don't know, just getting my own album out. I think that's a bucket list for me. And when I do my demos, I play everything. I play the drums, the guitars, the bass. I do all the vocals and backing vocals, and I make a complete demo. So my goal is to have a couple of songs on this record that I play everything, just to let people know, hey, that fucker could do more than sing.
So you also play guitar and bass and
Yeah,
nice
harmonica,
right?
keyboards. So
Nice.
I can do all that stuff. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't do it on stage. I play a little guitar on stage, but not very much.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy's going to do the bulk of the drumming, and
Uh-huh.
I've got some guest guitarists coming in. I got Ronnie coming in, Ronnie
Mm-hmm.
Youngkin coming in
Nice. Mm-hmm.
to do a couple tracks. I
Mm-hmm.
got my old cohort and Funny Money, Dean Kramer, coming
Yep.
in to do some stuff, and a local guy who's got a really great band around here named Everrise. We're called
Okay.
Everrise. Bob Perry's going to come in and play some stuff. So I'm not a lead guitar player. That's my shortcoming. Never took the time, never cared. But I can play rhythm out the ass.
So let's see. You can play rhythm guitar, bass, keyboards, harmonica, drums. You could sing. You're a lead performer, but you can't do lead.
Can't do lead.
All right, you got to work on that, Steve. I'm sorry.
As soon as we're done this podcast, I'm
on. Is there anything else KIX fans you want to tell them about or let them know about?
The only thing I can think of is like you were talking about earlier, the loyalty of our fan base, and being able to do all these different festivals over the years. Having Sullivan Big from Big Time Entertainment as our agent has catapulted our careers and getting us out in front of more people than we ever imagined, and getting a whole new fan base out of it. So so with our old loyal fans and the new band, new fans, the fact that we're still able to do it at this level and with no end in sight is at our age and at this point in our career, and still able to put a show on that we're proud of is pretty amazing.
It is. And, I saw you guys at M3 a few years ago, right, which you do every year, right? And to me, that was amazing to see, 15,000 people there. Everybody's super excited. And I turned to my wife, who's a huge KIX fan also, right, since the 80s. And we both said, I don't know if KIX has ever been more popular than they are now, which is amazing, which is absolutely amazing.
That's true. That's because of doing all these festivals. The first time when this agent gave me a call to say, hey, I'm a big fan. I've loved your band from the Boston area. And if you give me a chance to book this band, I can get you playing all over the US. And I poo-pooed him. I said, people don't give a shit about this band anymore. And I said, nah, I'm not interested. I was into Funny Money and I didn't want to rock that boat. So he thanked me for my time. And then a couple of days later, he called me again and gave me the same spiel, but just wouldn't let me get off the phone. And he said, look, there's a festival coming up called Rocklahoma. I'm going to get you guys on that, and I'm going to get you in front of a lot of people. And then if you don't want to do it after that, I understand. So he got us on Rocklahoma, and we played it in front of like 20,000 people, and they went apeshit. And my eyes just bugged. I'm like, are you kidding me? I had no idea. He said, give me and then from that show, all these promoters start calling him saying, hey, I want this band. I want this band. So that was really what broke us out.
Yeah. And I think, we spoke before about like the 90s and Nirvana and the whole grunge scene. But after that, rock kind of seemed to, for the most part, go away. Except for Foo Fighters seems to be the only ones that could survive, right? But
Stone Temple Pilots.
Stone Temple Pilots, right. Yeah, Stone Temple Pilots, right? But all through the early 2000s, rock really, I hate to use the word rock was dead because everybody debates that, right? But that's, I kind of feel like it was, right?
I agree.
And people were really hungry for 80s rock and your type of rock again, I think. So like the time was perfect.
Well, I think the cream floated to the top. I think a lot of them didn't make it back because there was a reason, because it wasn't as good, but it was promoted very well. So I think the cream has come to the top now, and that's why people are more accepting of us, because we're the real deal.
Absolutely, 100%. And like I say, always, one of my top 3 favorite bands of all time going to see live is KIX, easily. And it's one of the best kept secrets in rock, which is unfortunate because I tell all my friends, you guys got to go see KIX. I go on the KISS cruise every year and they say, what bands do you want? And I say, KIX. It's the only band I put on there. KIX. I want KIX. It's just a great fun time, Steve. And I want to thank you for 40 years.
I appreciate you saying all that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for 40 years of great performances, great albums, great songs. It's, to me, it's been part of the soundtrack of my life.
Hey, it's what I do. It's what we do. You got to do something, Samal, to do something you love.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope in 2021 we get to see each other on the road, and the band is out there rocking the way it should be. I know you guys have a bunch of shows scheduled, I think starting February. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We both did the same thing. Fingers crossed that those could stay on the schedule, and let's hope next year's better.
Hope so too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everything today, Steve. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Mike.
Thank you,
Take
Steve.
care.
Pleasure. Yeah. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Steve Whiteman once again for spending nearly an hour with me talking everything KIX, as well as sharing some of the insights about his upcoming solo album, hopefully coming out in 2021. I know I talk on behalf of all KIX fans and all rock fans where I can say that we're really excited to hear that, Steve, and we're looking forward to that release in the next year. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.